Okay, awesome. Welcome, everybody. If you're joining us, I'm Marisa Calderon, one of the Alessi Group Early Childhood Consultants, and I am joined today by one of our very own Alessi Group Early Childhood Consultants as well, our math guru, science, I'm going to say former kindergarten teacher as well, Veronica Brown Perrone.
Yes.
All right. So she's joining us tonight. Welcome, Vero.
Hi. All right. This is fun. I'm excited that we're finally doing math. Everybody's been in the social emotional bubble for a while, but if anyone has any questions about math, here we are.
That's so funny. That's so true. It's always those questions. But in Vero's defense, we had this math topic because one of the times that Debbie, one of the other Alessi Group consultants, we've been flipping a classroom or we're out somewhere in the state and we get asked certain math questions, especially when we're setting up the learning areas. We're setting up for math, setting up for science. And we're asked about ideas. I always redirect them to some of our resource links as well. But I thought it was a good opportunity to have Veronica on here so that we can kind of go over hopefully some new ideas. And actually, I've kind of put together a little slide thingy. So for our listening audience, I'll do my best to kind of describe it. But I like that some of the stuff I chose, Veronica was like, oh, I don't know about that. And that's good because it's a way for us to continue the learning and how to scaffold on what I was looking at in one angle, like, oh yeah, okay, that's a good point. Obviously the math is not my forte, my strength, which is why I have Veronica here. So we're going to look at some images here and let me screen share my stuff and let me make sure, all right, I'm just observing the comments. We're good. And then we'll have time for comments at the end of our little chat, hopefully, and I'll be looking over those as we do this. Let's see. Where's my screen share?
Okay, so teachers can ask comments, like they can type it and you can see it. And
on Facebook, yep.
Okay.
So I'm monitoring. I'll be looking kind of to the side because I'm going to be monitoring the Facebook posts.
All right. So interrupt us. We're just going to be chatting, but interrupt us if you need to.
Yes, absolutely. So from time to time. So here was my first slide, and I wanted to make sure and cite it. This is from the Miss Myers Kindergarten blog spot. It reminded me a lot of the Wonders in Kindergarten blog that Dr. Garcia likes from the kindergarten teacher. I think she's from Ontario. So here's an idea. How many rocks can your boat hold? And for me, I got drawn to it because I know that's one of the math provocations that you guys set up as far as with the rocks go. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have something that's kind of like, it's kind of zen. It's rock stacking, and we have them, they look fancier than they actually are because they're just from the dollar store. But we have these like really pretty smooth black rocks, and we even found some like outside that were stackable as well if you don't want to go to the dollar store. And we have this this provocation that's like, how many rocks can you stack? And then you there's a clipboard with it, and then you draw a picture of how many rocks that you stacked. So you're counting the rocks, and then you're drawing a representation of what that looked like. And then we also had Unifix Cubes right next to it. So you could measure how tall with non-standard units of measure. You could measure how tall your rock
structure like
Karen, I don't think like hiking, I'm not sure, but you can measure how tall it is. And most provocations are set up kind of in a way where you could be working with another person. You should be working with another person. We kind of encourage multiple children, and so they're not really working in isolation. So if you're working on your stacks together, it's how tall was yours, how tall was your neighbor's. And then, it doesn't even matter. Like sometimes some of the rocks are bigger. And so they might be taller and you might only have 3 rocks and your neighbor might have like 5 rocks.
Yeah.
So it's just different ways to compare. You're comparing like height as well with your non-standard units of measure to see how tall they are. And you're also comparing like quantity to see,
Yes.
oh, mine was 5 rocks high and yours was 3 rocks high. Well, I had more rocks and you had fewer rocks. And that also lends itself to lots of differentiation. So you could say, how many more rocks did you have than your friend? And you would say, like, I have 2 more than Jamie does or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could do it that way, or you could do
The
it.
variations of it. And I can't remember what it's called when you do go hiking and you stack it so that you know where you're at when you come back. It's a certain word. Oh, I wish
I
Regina
think
was
it's
around.
called a Karen. Like,
Is it?
I wasn't sure with what we did. I know ours
That's
looked
what they look
different.
like to me. So for
Ours looked
our
different. I
listening
didn't know if it
audience.
looked like I don't know what constitutes a real Karen, but I think that's what hikers do, where they add their rocks on top of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you look for those markers on your way.
Yeah, so I saw this idea just to kind of touch on it. For me, I liked the image is kind of like a tinfoil baking pan, I guess. It's
Mhm.
deep, and they have water in it. So they would be building. There's some Legos, some small Legos on the side there, and they would be building like a boat structure, something where it could hold the rocks, and then you can document. And I like how it has this sheet on the side. There's also a documentation sheet that says "My plan." So there's some critical thinking skills going on there as well, I think too. So
And
there's some,
it's always a good idea to incorporate a writing component with like every workstation or provocation. We call them provocations. They're workstations. It's a twist on the old math centers. And math centers, somebody might have put out a game of like bingo or
yeah,
worksheets that you could do
yeah,
with hands-on materials and solve them and stuff. And so what we're advocating for is not that. So math stations are like more in depth. They provide for multiple points of entry. So if, there was a more advanced student, they might have opportunities to be challenged. So like, let's look at this. How many rocks can your boat hold? Okay, well, let's say Marisa's like really great at counting. And so she's like, oh, my boat can hold 7 rocks. And maybe like I'm okay with like, oh, my boat can hold 5 rocks or whatever.
yeah,
But that's kind of where my math skills kind of taper off right there, because it might be the beginning of the year and I'm barely
yeah,
one-to-one correspondence down. But there's an opportunity for Marisa to answer and ask herself, like, how many more rocks do I have than Veronica?
yeah,
And if you can't see that, she could take her rocks out, line them up. I could
yeah,
take my rocks out, line them up, and you could really do one-to-one and see where they are to line up to see who has more rocks.
yeah.
If they can't line them up, you can get like an ice cube tray and you can just drop them in there, and like, this row is Marisa's, this row is mine,
Veronica's.
and we
Oh,
can,
I like that idea because it
yeah,
makes
we
it
can,
much more visual, and then it splits it up for them. I like that. Yeah.
because it takes a while for them to get the organization down,
Yeah.
to figure out how to compare it themselves. So if you don't give them an aid like that, or even if you just had like a printout with like boxes there, if you don't have if you don't have an ice cube tray,
Yeah.
that really helps keep them lined up.
Let me see here. Okay, let's see. So using Unifix Cubes for measurement. So I saw this image as well. So now we're looking on an image. It has, are these onions, green onions? What is, so they're like potted in a glass jar. There's a couple of plants. They're really long green stems. What do you
If
think
I
these
was a
are?
gardener, I would say, yeah, those look like onions to me. I have no idea.
We'll have to have,
They could be onions.
yeah. And then in the middle, you have some Unifix cubes. There's a sign that says, how tall is the plant? And there's a ruler. I was saying that I would add, like Beto had recommended before, you always want to have some writing tools to document the learning. So having that as well, a sheet documenting how tall the plant is. I almost want to say, like, if I can just jump on this, Veta, like, I would like to add numbers to these jars. There's 4 jars, or maybe a letter, no sé, like maybe, and just say, okay, jar A was such and such tall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you're going to be comparing them, or even if you're going to look at the same plant from like day after day, like if you
Yeah, like, so I don't get them
measure it and
confused.
measure it the next week, how do you know which one you measured if they all look the same?
Yeah. So I came across this and I thought, okay, let's see how that could be a good conversation starter with the math station.
And there are other ways to measure with non-standard units of measure. So like, let's say you're kind of like tired of measuring with Unifix cubes and throwing those in there, because we just kind of referenced that with the rock stacking and measuring with Unifix cubes. And then it comes up again here. I mean, you could measure with a piece of string and you can cut it and you can kind of document it that way. And you can hold it next to a child who's working next to you. You could measure with links or paper clips. And so those are all great non-standard units of measure that you can use to kind of like freshen up the measurements.
Like that.
Provocation ideas.
Let's see what my next one was. Okay, so this one I chose, and I thought, we were thinking about, does it make sense? When I saw it, I'm like, oh, isn't this interesting? Can you finish the number story? So what we're seeing is an image. It's a table laid out with what is that, 6, 7, 8 cardboard squares, and on the squares there are a variety of materials depending on the square, and it's supposed to be a number story. So one square has the number 1 and then one leaf, and then there's another cardboard square cut out that has the number 2, and that's it. And then the next square cardboard cutout has 3 shells, and so forth. And each cardboard square cut out has different attributes that make up that number. So we were thinking about how this compares to like an actual number story, like the what is it, the Amos counting book.
Like Amos counting. So
yes,
that was my first thought when I read the description. Can you finish the number story? In my world, number stories are kind of when you look at you can look at a picture or scenario. Like if, as an example, you open up Anna's counting book and there's a picture of 3 ducks in the water and 2 ducks that are kind of like chilling on the grass outside. And then a number story that a child could make up, or teacher or anyone can make up, is just say, 3 ducks are in the water, 2 ducks are resting in the grass. How many ducks are all together? Or conversely, you could go ahead and do like a subtraction where you could say there were 5 ducks, 2 ducks were in the grass. How many were in the water?
Yeah.
Or something. So that's what I think of when I think of number stories. So I might reword this a little bit to show like how many different ways can you represent this.
Yeah.
You're looking for different representations.
Mm-hmm.
There's the numeric representation, which is like the numerals that are provided there. And then also they have all the collections of loose parts.
Yes.
So you could do the numeral 4 and then 4 pom-poms and then 4 popsicle sticks or 4 buttons or something like that.
Yep. And that's why I chose it, because I wanted you to talk about it. Oh, so now we are seeing an image of, so there's 3 cookie sheets. Mm-hmm. One of them has shaving cream, and we wrote the number 10 on the shaving cream. We like traced it. And then we have another cookie sheet that has the number 3 that's made from Play-Doh, I believe. And then the third cookie sheet, is that sugar or salt?
It's salt.
Salt with, and then we wrote the number 8 on it. So talk to me a little bit about this provocation.
Okay, so being that we're the kindergarten experience and we work with early childhood, we would be totally remiss if we didn't address handwriting at all. And handwriting is it's such a big focus in kindergarten, because you might have, little Steven who came in who never held a pencil before. His parents didn't provide any of those kind of materials at all. And, might have this like totally loose grip, and to drill them on number writing can be very stressful for children like that, even if they have had opportunities to write before too. It's a little bit stressful. So what you're seeing here are opportunities for them to practice that are kind of like they're not stressful at all. They're, and if you mess up, you could just go ahead and either shake the salt tray and start again. You can wipe the cream. You can go ahead and redo the clay. So I would provide one of these opportunities whenever we have like math stations. I would probably provide an opportunity such as this as one of the stations always. Well, at least in the beginning when they're learning how to form the numbers, when they're learning how to write them. So what we're probably missing here might be like laminated cards with the numbers on them. So they might be able to pick a number and look at it and be like, okay, I'm going to practice writing the number 4. And they have it right there so they can look at it, and they might use their finger and practice writing the number 4. And when they're done, they can put it back and they can grab another one. So that way, while they're still like developing their fine motor skills that they're going to need to effectively grip a pencil and write the numbers, they're still getting practice forming the numbers. They're still learning how they're formed. They're still learning how to identify them. So we're not just saying like, oh, well, you don't have to write numbers at all. There are other ways that you can do it and that are fun and engaging, and they're totally not stressful. In the top left corner, you see that's actually a piece of
sandy
paper. Yeah. So they could trace the number along as well.
Yeah, it's a square piece of sandpaper that has the number 5 written with the marker. Mm-hmm. And those are great to start practicing writing with numbers too. Yeah. All right, let's see. So my next image, this is actually from Donna Bateman's kindergarten classroom. Donna is one of our past kindergarten experience teachers. There's a lot of images actually that we have from her classroom. One of the classrooms that we also did a classroom flip for. And in this image, we have, I don't even know what this little round thing is called. It's like a tin, a large round sorter, and it has different loose parts in it. And next to it is a balancing, what's it called? I don't want to say balancing beam. It's like a
balancing scale. It's a
balancing scale. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so I took this image because it's one of the tools that I always see in kindergarten classrooms are these balancing scales. And I think it's a great opportunity to measure or see what weighs more and what weighs less. And one of the things I told Veronica was, I said, this one, the balancing scales don't have the number, right? She's like, no, because you would be comparing, just documenting what was more and what was less. The ball weighed more than the wooden cube, for example. And then I had to put this question. I have a question on this slide. It says, when do I do this? What does it look like in practice? Because oftentimes I get asked out in the field from our teachers, when do I do these math stations? Now, I have to be really honest with you guys. My early childhood foundation is I didn't teach subjects in silos, math and science, and all of those subjects were integrated within the classroom. That's what I grew up with. So I understand that teachers are working within a certain curriculum guideline, perhaps, or they have a certain time frame. But I don't know if you want to kind of touch on that, Vero.
There are different ways. Obviously, in a perfect world, they would be like embedded throughout the classroom, and students would be able to self-select and work on materials like that. If you visited our model classroom, you can see that we have provocations in the math area that you can just go ahead and take out on a tray and sit down and you can work on. Much more inviting than maybe putting a tub of Unifix cubes or links on a table and expecting, some magic to happen or something like that without very inviting materials at all. But, you talk about having to teach in silos and stuff. So the reality is a lot of school districts require you to have your scheduled throughout the day, and they might have like a certain block. So I was very fortunate that we had a lot of freedom at the school that I taught at, but we still had our math block. So we had a 70-minute math block. In that math block, we had to address our curriculum. And my principal was really wonderful at the time. It was pretty much like, it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there. So, we had testing every Friday. They had progress monitoring every Friday that they would do. And as long as my students were keeping up with what the curriculum kind of had on pace, then she kind of didn't give me any trouble or anything like that. So I broke up my schedule the way I wanted to. And so I actually allotted to do math stations. So 20 minutes of our 70 minutes might have been working on whatever the curriculum had to wanted us to do in a different way, because I didn't used to use their worksheet pages or anything. But I would, but you look at it and like, what is the goal? What do they want us to get at here? What are we getting at here? And you find how to do it. Because, often some of it is very, very surface level. Yeah. So, and you can be done very quickly, and their worksheet pages, the kids get like super bored with anyway. So I would finish with that, and then I would do math stations. So I would have stations out at the same time, and it would be about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the day, depending on my schedule. We would have those out. So, that would be a protected math time. Students would self-select where they went. In the beginning, I kind of did, I'm going to be honest, when I was learning how to be a teacher and stuff, I rang the bell. And I said, everybody clean up and go ahead and move them. Well, that wastes a lot of time. It wastes a lot of time. It draws me away, because while they're working on these areas, I'm pulling a small group and I'm doing problem solving. So I let them self-select. So that's kind of what this looks like in practice for me, is that I would put them out at all the tables. They would self-select where they go. Yes, that's really scary for a lot of people to let them, because they might be like, oh my gosh, what if Johnny is over here and the number writing every single day and he doesn't practice any of these other concepts? I'm going to be honest that that's never really happened. No one chooses to go to the same area that they're bored with every single day, if they're bored with it. Yeah. And if they keep choosing to go to it, then I think it's appropriately challenging for them. I feel like they need to be working on those.
Yeah, and I feel like you guys have mentioned where that's maybe perhaps where children are, then they have like a check off where, little Johnny, by the end of Friday, you need to have come to this math station. You know what I mean? So if that's that much of a big deal for them to go to a certain area, I feel like you guys have addressed that as well as an alternate.
They can do that. And I've also met teachers. Recently I was in Bullhead City, and some of them said that they do that. So you just sign in. There's like a clipboard, and you sign your name that you've been to this station.
Yes, that's what it is.
That you visited all the stations in the week, and however you want to do it. So for me, it was kind of nice, because I had one that was like, number writing, another one that practiced like addition and subtraction, another one that practiced like all the different representations and breaking apart and taking, composing and decomposing numbers. So, I kind of had them, spiraling so that they'd be practicing a variety of concepts in that 30 minutes, which is way more powerful than some of the other stuff that we do that's whole group that they might not be interested in. And also, when you ring the bell, you've got some kids who might be done early and they're sitting around,
yeah, I know what you mean. The self-select part, I think, is powerful, because now, you're coming back to me, my social emotional stuff. Now I'm not dealing with behaviors, because I'm allowing some decisions there, some autonomy to my learning. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see here. Oh, this one was, this is an example of a provocation, I believe, that's in, what's Jennifer's last name? She's at Desert Sun Child Development Center. It's the kindergarten classroom there. How many ways can you make a number? And it has the sign, it has some writing tools there. It has a jar that has just very different types of dice with numbers on them. And then there's also a tray with dominoes, and I think that's popsicle sticks as well. And I think you were saying, Vero, that this is another variation of one of the provocations that you guys talk about in your session, I think.
We do. We have one that's very, very similar to this, and it's just like, you know, you roll a dice. So for ours, you would roll a dice, and you could either choose like the dice with the dots or the dice with the numerals, because obviously you would select the dots if you didn't know how to read the numbers.
Yeah.
So it allows for multiple levels, you know, of entry right there. So you would roll the dice, and then I think we have some like dollar store gems, and they could make the quantity there. We had glued the popsicle sticks together in kind of like a 10 frame, so they could actually put them there. So like, let's say I rolled a 6, I would put 6 gems there. You might find the domino with 6 dots. It looks like there's a pencil right here where
there's a writing tool there.
You can write 6. And I also had like these little wooden numbers that I had gotten a big container of them at Michael's, these little wooden numbers. And there was like a jar of them, so they could look through the numbers and find what is, you know, the written numeral 6. And that's kind of how they would do it. There were all the different ways to practice the representations.
Yep.
And I thought it was very effective.
Yeah, I thought so too. Okay. So my next one is, and this is another example of me. I want Vero to expand on this. Was I think, okay, it's an idea, it's one idea, but how can we improve on this concept? So it's a sheet that has already kind of like a trail. It's a sheet that has a trail to make a board game. It has squares on it, and then the child has to, I guess, identify on each square what task that needs to be done, but it's on a sheet. And the reason why I put it was because I wanted us to talk about math board games. And I think it was last year or 2 years ago when we had our big math conference. Dr. Garcia, I've never seen her so excited about this part of the conference, but she broke out with all of her board games that she like handmade, with stickers, different types of craft material, like craft paper punch outs. We got ridiculous with that activity, right? So Can you tell me a little bit about this concept?
So this is actually, it's a great concept right there to get them thinking about, you know, one, using a math board game, which is phenomenal. So if you can bring in the real life math board games, that's even better. So obviously, you know, Candyland and Chutes and Ladders and all of those kind of board games are super, they're classic, and they're popular for generations for a reason.
I play Chutes and Ladders, My Little Pony version.
You know, I had Hi-Ho Cheerio, and my goodness, those little cherries they get everywhere, but you know, they loved it and stuff. So I actually had multiple Hi-Ho Cheerios in there, so that if we ever ran out of cherries, we could just borrow from another game. But it's absolutely wonderful to play real board games, and it's even better like to have them make their own. So I'm looking at this, and it seems so cute. Like they've got lava, they've got a trampoline, regular milk,
bouncy
chocolate milk. I'm not exactly
sure. It's because we don't know the context of this worksheet, or
right?
Yeah, we don't know.
But my first thought when I looked at it was like, oh, wouldn't it be so much better to design your own? Because I know, like when we had those little punch out sheets, you could make your own
places
for them to walk, and then especially, I think we got a bunch of stickers. Right?
Oh yeah, like they went to town with that one. Yeah,
did it through stickers, and I saw teachers who actually made some for their class that were based on books and stuff. You could actually go online and print out like some pictures of the book characters and stuff, and that's super fun and engaging for them as well. So I would just kind of like, whereas I like this idea, I like the concept of the kids, and obviously they're doing it and they like their game. I would give them a little bit more autonomy.
A little bit more freedom. Take it to the next level.
But this might be a great way to get started. I just wouldn't want them thinking this is the only way, because then that's the only way that they make their board games is in that zigzag shape.
Right.
Exposing
them like a swirl shape. Yeah.
Exposing them to different ones. might be a good idea too before they make their own.
Okay, so I have posted an image of one of the what we call learning area descriptions. So kindergarten teachers that attend the kindergarten experience modules, one of the modules is called the organization of space and time. And after they attend that module, they then get this big PDF document that has all of the learning area kind of adult language. It's like the descriptions of each of the areas that you can hang up above so that the adults that come in, parents, administrators can see how the different learning areas, including the math area, how it aligns with the Arizona Kindergarten Math Standards. I'm going to post this in our comments link as well if you guys want to take a picture, screenshot that. Don't worry, I'm going to post it in the links, the comments as well. But do you want to say anything to this, Vero?
Not specifically. I mean, I think it's nice. This is a nice reference to all the different, aspects of what we're encouraging for them to do. And it comes right from the standards. So there's not too much other than, like, I think it's important that you put that in all of your areas to put
Yes.
some sort of justification, because it's the same thing. Like if somebody comes in and they're like, oh, it looks like there's a bunch of playing in here, board games. What are they doing?
Mhm.
It's kind of
Yeah.
nice.
One of the images that I did not include, and man, she's probably going to tell me I'm kicking myself, is an image of children working with blocks. Of course. So just note that that would also be a math area component, is working with blocks on all
Yeah.
the different geometric shapes.
And blocks are huge because we have like geometry as a section of our math standards right there, and
Yes.
also equivalency. And so, especially if you intentionally design the block area for them to be put away in a certain area where two triangles come together to make a square and they're always seeing things like that. So, intentionality is key also with how you design it.
Yes. Um, Many of the ideas that we use in our kindergarten sessions for math come from, I think these two, I know for sure the Juanita Copley book, but the big ideas one, I really like that one. And I have to say, Veronica, and I don't know about if Debbie, how you guys came to using the big ideas of early mathematics book by the Erickson Institute. We, we had been doing, you guys had been implementing the ideas from this publication before even Erickson rolled out their big ideas early mathematics series. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that because I thought they've had their conference every year. I thought they did.
They did a whole, I've been following them, they follow me, but they do like this whole series thing, and I'm like, hey, we've been doing that. We've been doing that already.
In terms
Yeah.
of series, I don't know, but I do know that
I know they have their big
Erickson Institute, they
conference,
have a great
website.
they have a great conference every summer in Chicago if you can go to it. So this book, Big Ideas of Early Mathematics, it's actually for young children up to age 6. So
Yes.
we're kind of at the top end of it. But the way I kind of look at this book is this is kind of like your book as a professional. It breaks it down in really easy ways. Like, what are the big ideas of counting and cardinality? Well, and it's that counting is used to, find out how many in a set, and that the counting rules never change.
Yeah.
Like after one always comes two, always comes three, and things like that. And so, like, what are the big ideas of operations and algebraic thinking, which is just kind of like, the way I think of it is this kind of fancy for addition and subtraction. So, and it's that sets can be composed from two different groups and decomposed. I mean, like big ideas. But then as a professional, it's great because it gives you all like these developmental stages of them, how they get there. So if you're authentically assessing and you've got your clipboard and you're watching someone and you're trying to figure out, where they are, where they're going wrong, it gives you the terminology. Like I didn't know it was called like tagging, when you're tagging pieces, when you're counting them and moving them aside for your organization. So it's kind of nice because it gives you a lot of that background so you know what you're looking for if you're authentically assessing. If you're watching and
Yes.
what am I supposed to get out of this?
It's
That
some
one.
really good, some really good stuff both of these publications. I want to see if we have a little bit of time. I'm going to see if it plays. So for some resources, here's Veronica's social
Thanks,
internet. So we developed, or they developed, Debbie and Veronica developed a whole math series. And I think there's 5 different, and they're really short, 5 different videos. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I do want to play. This one is called Rethinking Math Kindergarten Worksheets, Sorting and Classifying, and it's on our YouTube channel. And so, I mean, they take they take one of these curriculum math books, and they give you ideas on some alternates. Let's see if this clicks here. I don't know if it's going to do it. No, it's not. Well, it's because I'm screen sharing. And it's going to go to the YouTube. So let's see here. I'll hold off on that so that we can just continue here.
I wonder if there's a way we can just link out to it so people can find
I will. I'll post a link of the YouTube playlist. It's a YouTube playlist that I made for math for you guys. So that way you just click on it and you're good to go. All right. And then obviously right there, all of the ways to connect with us. I wanted to mention too is that we have the Pinterest board. The math Pinterest board next to the science Pinterest board is probably one of our most popular boards. The teachers, I can tell they're always pinning and looking at those 2 boards. So if you are searching for a certain resource that we mentioned today, majority of it is on our Pinterest board. You can look us up. It's the Kindergarten Experience. Just type that in. And then our YouTube channel is under the Kindergarten Project Arizona. And that's just because originally this was just a project before it became this full scale, bigger part of the grant. So the Kindergarten Project Arizona. Next month is our next Facebook Live. However, I think it's going to be canceled because it's fall break. And so I'm assuming teachers are going to be out. However, saying that, I had to write this down because Dr. Garcia always does these impromptu Facebook Lives. So perhaps she'll have time during that fall break to do a impromptu Facebook Live on one of the subjects. But we'll let you know if something comes up. But just we're always on second Monday of the month, 6 p.m. I might start it a little bit later. I think 6 p.m. sometimes is difficult for folks to get on, but I noticed that everybody usually watches the replay a lot. So again, we'll post this up on our YouTube. That way you guys can also see the math kindergarten playlist. So if you want to capture that, and then check out our podcast also on Apple Podcasts. It's the Kindergarten Experience. It's on Google Play as well. All free. I think that's it.
Feel free to contact us with any questions because I know we kind of rushed. But are we done?
Let me see. Hold on. I was monitoring questions. Let me stop sharing my screen. We did good. I mean, yeah, I think we're good here. Just looking through this. Any questions, make sure you guys just post them in the comments and we'll address it throughout the week if there's something that comes up. That's it, Vito. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thanks.